And welcome inside the Backstage Pass. Of course, always busy here with some great shows coming up over the next few hours. So sit back, relax, and have a good time. Coming up about 4 o'clock today, our show, we're going to talk to the great Daryl Worley here on the program and also Bernie Nelson. We got a big show promoting them out there at Pedrati's Ranch this Friday, November 11th, out there. Big Veterans Day concert at Pedrati's. And of course, you can get tickets at Full Circle Moments LLC.com. So Daryl Worley, Bernie Nelson coming up here. Fantastic shows all day. But leading us off today, we got a good one here, no doubt, and I love this guy because he is the founding member of the Grammy-nominated band Little Texas, lead vocal guitar, songwriter. He's had some big number ones out there you see behind those plaques, right behind him as well. He's got a new project coming out this Friday on Veterans Day. This town was. The great Porter Howell joins us here on the Backstage Pass presented by Bangtail Whiskey. Porter, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, it's been a good day and busy, and no doubt. But hey, let's start right there. A brand new project coming out this Friday. This town was. I know you guys have a album release show coming up real soon on the 15th of November too. So a lot of cool things happening for you. Let's talk about this project and how excited you are to get this music in the hands of the fans out there.
Well, this is the first time in my career that I've taken a group of songs that I really like that I wrote myself. And it's not so much a solo country artist project as it is a singer-songwriter. It's about the songs. And COVID really, in Little Texas still together. I'm actually the front man for the last 17 years or whatever. We tour about 70 dates a year. And guess what? That year they were gone. So I had a lot of time on my hands, rounded up, wrote some more by myself, rounded up the best of those, kind of the most personal, the ones that meant the most to me, and had a producer come over to my house and made a record right here in my basement where we are, right over there with players and a full band. So I'm looking forward to it because it's very personal. It is, I feel like, different than anything I've done in Little Texas, and that's kind of the point. It's just me, my favorite pet songs as a writer.
Mm-hmm. When you look back at it too, and a lot of people say that very what you said there, they had a lot of time to write over the pandemic with the live shows being gone, and of course a lot of time to reflect on career accomplishments, things like that. It seemed like you kept busy writing, and it probably a lot of these. I can't wait to just hear the story behind it. Of course, the lyrics that really make up a great album. I'm sure you put a lot of just thought and probably some real world experience into that writing too, right?
I did. I lost my father. We lost my father, passed away 3 or 4 years ago at 88. So he had a great life, left behind such a legacy. He was a huge country music fan, like for real. He was an accountant, like wore a 3-piece suit every day to work. So you wouldn't look at him and go, oh, there's a country boy. But he loved Willie Nelson when he has that Willie record from the 50s. And then I wrote, Hello Walls and all that stuff. So I was raised in that. So this album is kind of dedicated to him with a couple of songs that are just directly about him. One is called I Thought About You Today. And you talk about downtown. I was pressure washing my driveway because anything else to do. and it's a big driveway out there. So it took like 2 days. And I didn't have a very good pressure washer. And I wrote that song about him with tears and the whole 9 yards, The downtime did. You said it right. It gave you a lot of time to reflect on what was important. And kind of for me, because I don't really love writing like me and you are talking right now. Some people did a great job of that. And I'm not knocking that. But I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. So I didn't co-write either for a year. So I wrote these by myself. And with time to reflect and get them done, it had a big part of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it too. And like I said, you guys have a big announcement next week. Actually, a week from today, November the 15th, is a full band show coming up there at the local in Nashville. You got on 28th Avenue, 6 o'clock. That's going to be a lot of fun there for the album release show for This Town Was. Tell us all about that for the fans tuning in.
I've been playing with Little Texas since 1988. We've played arenas. We've done stuff in front of you guys at radio. I've done, major TV. And people ask me, I'm all geared up and everything. They ask me these days, are you nervous? I'm like, are you kidding me? I say, no, not at all. This is so different, though. It feels like I'm out there. Those dreams you have, your underwear, whatever. It's a lot more vulnerable, and I haven't done it much. I've done a ton of writers' nights by myself and with buddies. I threw together a band of guys that mostly played on the record. Did a hip project in the early 2000s when Little Texas wasn't together called Hilljack.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of those guys from that band, Paul Jefferson, big songwriter, and John Rife, who is actually Brady Seals' drummer right now, is playing drums for me. So even that is a very personal, it's good friends, the people closest to me outside of the band, outside of Little Texas, are going to be with me. So shouldn't be too nervous, but still going to be a little nerve-wracking element.
Yeah, stepping back on the stage, no doubt. And hey, speaking of someone here, we got someone special tuning in. I actually called this name before the show, so I had to put this up here. So there you go. It's just again, fate has it as it would there. So, Brady, appreciate you tuning in, brother. Always a good fan of the show. Love his music and love just Little Texas. Well, hey, let's talk a little Texas for it. We have you play a little something off this album here coming up here again. This Town Was comes out this Friday nationwide. Make sure you guys go check that out. I mean, just some great songs, man. You guys always say the 90s country era will never be often imitated, but not duplicated. I guess it'll never be duplicated again when it comes down to it. But knowing you guys were flying up down the road, probably doing 70, 100, 150 shows a year, it never gets old hearing those classics. I mean, God Bless Texas, and of course, My Love, What Might Have Been. I guess during COVID, was there a chance to kind of go back and say, man, we kicked ass, we took names, we did everything we could do in country music?
Well, yes, but we had that time because as a band, we took a break in 98 and put it back together in 2004. And that was a lot of time to decompress from crazy 10 years and just the whirlwind of doing that. I mean, we were called one of the hardest working bands in country music because we did such a groundswell. We were playing in Texas a lot before the album came out. So when the first record came out that first year, we did something like almost 300 shows, and then it just went from there, and it was crazy. So when we tore it apart back then and laid it down for a little bit, that was definitely a blah, blah, blah. And then you got to look at what you did and realize and all that and hang out with people in town and get your attaboys and all that stuff. If anything, the COVID break kind of made me appreciate, I did already, but made me appreciate more what we've been able to do after that. Is that we've got a great little thing going. It's just as steady as can be. It's such a great way to make a living and get to really kind of go back to the scene of the crime. We have to ask each other, didn't we play here? Because it was such a days back then. We're going back. We've been going back for a victory lap for 17 years, So we get to live in that a lot. And the COVID was like, oh my God, I'm so used to seeing the guys. We've got to get back to work. It was a nice year off, but at the same time, so wait a minute, I'm so on autopilot to get on that bus a certain time of year, every year, that we really missed it.
Yeah. And speaking of that too, just to have that type of that camaraderie, that chemistry I talk about too, so many different things. You guys have to have that, have each other's backs. If, somebody makes a mistake and there's never, I mean, you always want to do perfect shows and that kind of thing. But I've been to shows before where, glitches happen and there's technical problems and this and that. But I've seen you guys play live even back in the day in my early radio days. And I mean, it was always just on point. It was there. It was good, no doubt. And it was just one of the best shows I'd ever seen live when it came down to it. How important is that for a band these days, just to have that chemistry, that cohesiveness?
I think it's very important. And in Nashville with Broadway and stuff like that, and there's still some clubs out there across the country where bands are getting to do it. I've seen a lot of newer acts, and the first thing I wish for them is to be able to go do it, to be in clubs, not just sitting in a writer's room here or a studio, because you learn to keep people interested. That's what we learned in our club days. Like, you're not watching us? Okay, Brady's going to take his shirt off and get on the piano. We were so ready to go by the time a record came out. We freaked people out because we had that club, we had the 10,000 hours plus. And we see clips of us back then, and you always think you're going to cringe. And to a man, we're like, God, we were good, man, because we'd done it so much, and we were good at being us,
Yeah. No doubt about it. It's like I said, chemistry, cohesiveness, that camaraderie, whatever term you want to use, it's very important, no doubt. Again, that album release shows next Tuesday there at the local in Nashville, 6:00. Make sure you guys check it out. And actually, it's 110 28th Avenue is where you can check it out for the full band show. Join them in celebration for Porter and the project This Town Was on November 15th. Make sure you guys do that. Hey, let's I'll tell you what I love. I love the record so much. I got to hear a little something. You got that guitar handy. Let's play a little something on the show. What do you say?
Well, let's try it. I hadn't sung this in a while, but I have to in a week. So here we go. If you hadn't heard it, I think you have, because this
is yes.
One of two things we've already put out there. I'd wanted to write it for a while, and I actually had a couple of different working titles. The idea of what we've all seen happen in Nashville is you take something so good and quaint and Music Row and something so famous, and so many people come and build new stuff that you can't even find why they came there in the first place. You know, it's like a little beach town that has this quaint little fishing village like Destin, and they make it something else. And yeah, it's still good. It's still incredible here. I like that Broadway is Broadway and not triple X places anymore. That's a good thing, but it's not what made Music City, you know. And during the 90s, such a cool time to be part of that Music Row down there that I wanted to write this song about it. It's called This Town Was.
Here we go.
This town was two one-way streets where dreams could find a way to fly, where songs that all the world would hear were brought to life. If you look real close, you can almost see a vague outline of where this town was. And this town was a whole lot more than just a trendy place to go. It's where lonely voices dared to bare their hearts and souls. And if you listen close enough, you'll hear the ghost of who this town was. Yes, when you're on to something good, it's understood they'll all come running for that townhouse in the sky. I think it's crazy how they'll tear down the reasons why they loved it. Build and build until it's hard to find where this town was. I'm sure there's a fire that still burns in every hopeful waiting for their turn. I can only hope they care to learn what this town was. Guess when you're on to something good, it's understood they'll all come running, just gunning for that penthouse in the sky. I think it's crazy how they'll tear down the reasons that they loved it. Build and build until it's hard to find where this town was. This town was two one-way streets where dreams could find a way to fly, where songs that all the world would hear were brought to life. If you look real close, you can almost see the old skyline where this town was. Where this town was. Where this town was.
Love it, man. Like I said, you summed it up right there. Great lyrics. This Town Was from Porter Howell here on the Backstage Pass. Make sure you guys go check it out right now across all the digital platforms, and of course the full length album is coming out this Friday on Veterans Day, November the 11th. So make sure you guys check him out, Porter Howell Music, on all the socials out there too. We'll take a quick time out too. Got a lot more questions here for Porter, and of course, coming up here in a few minutes, we got our concert we're promoting this week at Pedrati's Ranch in San Antonio, Texas. Daryl Worley and, of course, Bernie Nelson. I'm sure two names that Porter knows very well in the music industry, coming up here in a few minutes on the Backstage Pass. You can get tickets for that show at Pedrati's Ranch in San Antonio this Friday, November the 11th on Veterans Day at FullCircleMomentsLLC.com. Right now, a word from one of our sponsors, Bangtail Whiskey. It is the choice of the holiday drinks out there. Make sure you guys are around that Christmas tree or watching Christmas movies with Bangtail Whiskey. EasyLiquor.com is the best way to get that bottle sent directly to your door and put it a part of some of your Christmas favorite meals and appetizers and things like that too. Coming back here on the show, more with Porter. We're going to talk about This Town Was and some more songs off the record. And like I said, more about Little Texas too, no doubt about it, as the guys are still staying strong after all these years. Coming right back here, it is the Backstage Pass. Stay tuned.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And, of course, back here, Porter Howell on the Backstage Pass. Of course, coming up tomorrow, Madeline Merlot here on the Backstage Pass. Be able to look out for that as we talk about Slide, a new EP she's got out there, too, doing very well on the country music charts there. Again, Porter's putting out a great project this week, Veterans Day, Friday, November 11th, called This Town Was. Make sure you guys go check out the song we just heard here on the show here. The title track to that, and of course all the other songs. I liked what you did with too as well when I got to hear it. Lucky to Be Alive. That's also on this project here. It really stuck out to me. Tell us all about that one too.
Man, that is one that very few people have heard this yet, but this week they're hearing it more. Everybody's talking about that song. It surprises me a little bit. It is like 7 of these songs are very true stories in my life. And during COVID, everybody's bored, right? We talked about our schedule being down. I actually hooked into a very strange hobby. You can look me up on TikTok mainly and on Facebook. It's Porter's Evil Jumps. I started jumping the old motorcycle from the 70s because they reissued it like in March, right when everything started. Mm-hmm. So by May, I was getting better at it, and I'd bought like 5 of them because I was tearing them up. It's just something to go be mindless about and kill time. But then it got very creative too to do it. Quite a follow me on TikTok. Yes, all of that has a lot to do with this song. Because, you know, at our generation, Evel Knievel and like Kiss were larger than life. Just huge, you know. It was such a big influence on me musically, but Evel on just our life early on. And I got to thinking, man, that boy was lucky to be alive through all the stuff that he went through. And then I'd even jump the little thing, and the action figure would be all messed up, and the bike would be, you know, go through these awful crashes. And I just kept saying that phrase, "You're lucky to be alive." And then I turned it inward and thought, well, there are times and things that I've been through where I'm lucky to be alive as well. And so it gets more reflective as it goes on. And that second verse is really, I've been sober. I'm a sober person. I've been sober for 24 years. And so that's what that whole second verse is about. And then we just rock this one out. I don't play much lead guitar on this record. It's mainly just to service the songs. There's 4 minutes of guitar solo. Yes. After we being lucky to be alive, we rock. So
that's what you guys did.
Yeah. That one. I like that.
Hey, I got to ask you kind of a funny one here, because every day I'm watching television. This is pretty cool. And I say in a way that I love all trucks, no doubt about it for me. But I love Toyota. I love Ford. I love it every day. You hear it on there. Ford is the best. I mean, it's just they've taken a song that was so synonymous out there for you guys at number one, did all the things at these award shows. And really changed the words and things like that. And I mean, I always say residual income is the best, no doubt. But seriously, I mean, this is Where did this start? I mean, this was you mentioned about playing Texas so much down here, and I'm near Houston, which is about 80 miles west of Houston, a little town called Beaumont down here. But it is just again one of those iconic country music songs, Porter, and even today from the legends or Sirius XM Prime Country or the commercials, pretty cool to make a little extra residual, right?
It's incredible. That commercial came about almost 20 years ago. They actually approached us, and they had written a copy, and our people, our publishers, especially if you hadn't licensed anything yet, you still have control over how much they change it and all that. And we were like, I don't know, we don't love that, and we don't want the song to become that. Can we rewrite it? So when you hear the changed words, Brady and I rewrote those, because our people were good about making sure that we still got a say and everything. So, yeah, that's been incredible, man. It's it's regional just to Texas and maybe Oklahoma, but yeah, that's been a lit. And that song, and again, it's going to sound like I'm going a long way around, but I'll get there quick. When I used to play cover music, when we were coming up in clubs and everything, and you play old songs by people like the Temptations. And when you went to look it up, you realize they had a way bigger catalog than what you thought, but you just heard the song, that big, I didn't know if they were a one-hit wonder, if they had a bigger catalog. 3, at least 2, what might have been, and God Bless Texas, maybe Kick a Little, maybe My Love, have become, they're still played on all the formats. They're still in all the research packages. They're still out there. We've even had young people on social media say, oh, not bad for a one-hit wonder. I'm like, and I'll list like 19 other songs. But I'm very grateful that's happening. At least you have one. If you have one that stays in pop culture, your whole life, career, and into retirement and headed for the end of things, that's a good thing. That's great. I mean, it's like one, but
yeah. Well, it means you've done something right too. What sticks around in pop culture for that long, no doubt.
Over TV, Joe Jonas just did it on the Righteous. I always almost get this wrong. The Righteous Gemstones on HBO.
Okay.
Joe Jonas recorded "God Bless Texas," like the only one that's ever actually like sang, redone the song. So.
Yeah, nobody does it as good as you guys. Like I said, what you guys do when it came to doing it live shows, and of course getting the band together. And only to me, one band can really sing it. That was you guys in Little Texas, no doubt. Hey, tell me about this. Old School is on the project This Town Was. How did this one come about?
This was another one about my dad, just straight on about my father. But underlying, with that said, there's also this thing with us older country guys. If we're not crazy about the newer music and say something, I don't have the platform anymore to open my big mouth, so I haven't. But I've watched other people say something. They get attacked, man. They get just like, you can't change with the times. You don't understand evolution. You don't understand how it needs to go. Kids today love it, all that. Well, to me, the but there is I was raised with this. I was a rocker. My friends were surprised I moved to Nashville because they didn't really know the depth of that. I understood country music, that I was just as crazy about Albert Lee, who played on Emmylou records, than I was Eddie Van Halen. Same thing to me. They both went in my brain. I learned the solos and all that. So country music runs deep. It's not a fad to me.
Yeah.
And in Texas, people, the second verse says, I'm like all them two-steppers down in Texas that won't get with the times. I can't two-step, but I feel that. It's part of the culture. You can change it all you want to. They'll still gravitate towards what resonates as roots country. So say that I'm old school, but I'm an old fool. A pretty cool old fool made me this way.
I'm with you on that too. I had one of those that
to my dad,
Well, that's that too. I'm gonna say the same thing because I was telling one of my buddies yesterday, or a buddy of the show here, David Frizzell joined us yesterday here on the show, and I said, "Look, man, the Wino song sticks around. You guys have been around for 50 plus years, and the good ones never die. They never go away, and that's why I still say when you guys were out there, banging the roads and doing what you do in the '90s country." Again, there'll never be another era like that. It is just great music, and like I said, those plaques behind you really say right there to you guys did something right, no doubt. I also liked off the record again. This Town Was comes out this Friday on Veterans Day for Porter. Church of Uncertain. I thought that was very unique. twist on it too at the same time, but really it hit home with me.
You're there in Texas, just go up straight north a little bit. You run into Caddo Lake, right?
Yeah, sure do.
Well, Cypress and Uncertain is a little town, for those that don't know, of like 99 people, probably give or take a couple here and there. And 40 miles from where I grew up. I was going back for a high school reunion from Shreveport to Longview and was trying to find a catfish place that we knew about back in the day and got lost. Went up in a parking lot, and it was the parking lot of the Church of Uncertain. And I loved that. Loved the inner rhyme. I love Church of Uncertain. What is that? And I actually sat down with Brady and put that title out, and we couldn't get anything. I called him recently and said, hey, the self-written version, it's completely different, is on the record. So that to say that I had worked on it a while, tore it down. That's one of the most rewritten songs on this thing, because I wanted to make it mean something other than just something that sounded cool. My experience a little bit with a self-help group helped me, and I thought, well, that's a meeting underneath a church. And this kid is beat up. He's young. Court made him go to this particular meeting. There's some pamphlets and a coffee pot, and he's unsure why he's there. He don't want to be there. He's pissed off. He knows these people aren't going to help him, and yet their strength and experience, they can. And he sees something just that day. He sees enough to come back. And throughout the course of the song, I think if you listen, he grows up and they tell him, and he gets there. And just because he's willing to take their word for it, he's uncertain, but they're not. And so that's drawing from that experience in my life too. So I'm glad you picked that one out. That's actually, I got asked the other day, what's my favorite? That probably is one of them.
Favorite one. Yeah. And I will say this because the writing on it was so good. And like I said, the lyrics, man, again, you guys have written or worked with some of the best songwriters. You mentioned writing a lot of these yourself on this project, which comes out this Friday. This Town Was, no doubt. And so many great songs there too. And honestly, I got to get you back on the show once this thing unrolls and we push it forward and it's out a few months and you guys are playing this thing too, no doubt. And there's so many more questions I didn't even get to today too, but I got a couple of rapid fire here. So I'm going to throw these at you too, because I want to do this. When it comes to the Porter Howell hobbies outside of music, what do you get into?
Well, the evil thing.
The evil thing. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm actually working with the toy company and doing like live. I say it with this sort of amazement because I am amazed. And fishing, I really, right when COVID hit, I hit the boat. And me and my best buddy, who's going to play guitar with me at the show, said, okay, man, this is our social distancing. Here we go. And you can walk on the boats at the lake at first because everybody was out of work. Every guy around here said, oh, let's hit the lake. So it didn't feel like social distancing at all. And there was no place to fish on our little lake. So I'll get back to it. I have a little boat out there that's like the Evel Knievel workstation. So everybody knows it's fishing, and now they're scratching their head about this whole evil thing. And also, I don't know if you have this in a question. I'm also writing a lot with my daughter and producing a project on her, and it's flat out art, man. It's not country. It's like this artsy singer-songwriter stuff that she. If you think this album is done that I just did, This Town Was, to be personal. Hers is so personal. It's just like her diary out. It's really thrilling to see that. So I've been working on that a lot too.
Well, you threw it out there, and like I said, I'm throwing a line too. So I'm gonna have to talk to you about getting her on the program, talk about this project once it's out there too for all the people to enjoy out there and the fans, because I do love personal stories and I do connect with lyrics a lot of different ways, and as most people. So I'd love to have her here on the program to talk about her project too, if she'd love to come on too. Let me ask you about this food craving or drink or stuff like that. You mentioned about the sobriety, things like that. But is there a soda, water, tea? What kind of drinker are you when it comes to beverages, and what's your favorite food?
Man, I have never been a coffee drinker, and all of a sudden, I think again the downtime, get up in the morning, same routine. So it's been coffee and decaf. So I have this routine. I start with regular cup like people do, and then I have to go unleaded or I'll be like crazy by the end of the day. I've always been just a straight up Coke drinker, but I have to stop because of the sugar and and I just can't. I guess it's the old ways. If you've got a can there to drink, I'm gonna nurse on them all day. I drink 9 Cokes, so I'm quit that. It's weird enough. Growing up in that area of Texas, it was always barbecue, Mexican, and my dad is from Baton Rouge. So I grew up with like real Cajun stuff being cooked in and around the house. Crawfish, awesome. As I've gotten older, weirdly enough, I almost hate to admit this, my brain lights up the most when we talk about sushi. I'm not supposed to admit that, being from where I'm from. But.
Well, I'm with you. A good plate of sushi is always good every now and then too, and I find myself getting into more and more, especially a local restaurant here where you're going to pay for it, but man, the taste buds, they know what they like and when they like it, no doubt about it too. And I love this project. Like I said, good friend Melissa contacted us. Man, I love this album, what you guys have done. Man, again, the big release party. Release shows next week on the 15th of this month. Make sure you guys go down to the local, check it out there. One of the best spots to hang out there, 110 28th Avenue, 6 o'clock, full band show with Porter, and the album release show for This Town Was. And, of course, give him a follow out there. I'm going to check out the TikTok stuff, too, for this, about this new Evel Knievel stuff and you and this hobby, because I did not know. You kind of give us some hidden talent there that, like I said, I did not know about that. So, hey, best of luck with the album. Again, it's out nationwide this Friday, November 11th, and, of course, the show next week, November 15th. And follow him out there, Porter Howell Music. And, hey, keep kicking ass with Little Texas. And tell Brady we said hello from the Backstage Pass. Porter, always great to catch up, and looking forward to having you and your daughter back on the program, no doubt.
Yeah, love to. She talks more than me, so it'll be good. Believe it or not.
Believe it or not. Well, appreciate all the great contributions to country music and, of course, Little Texas for the impact they made there as one of the greatest bands of the 1990s and, of course, early 2000s. We'll get you back on. Best of luck with the album release show next week on Tuesday, November 15th at the local and, of course, nationwide this week. Congrats on finishing the project. And, man, continued success going forward. And, hey, we got to go fishing if it gets to Nashville, no doubt.
Yeah, man.
I'm ready to catch me a big one.
I don't know where to go. Yeah.
Hey, anywhere. I'll just jump on the boat. I'll bring the tackle, the bait, and we'll bring some snacks. How's that?
We know some places. There's some really good state lakes around here to get off the big water and go to smaller places.
Let's go to smaller places. I like that. Being from a small town, no doubt. Porter Howell here on the Backstage Pass coming up here in a little bit. Daryl Worley and Bernie Nelson too. And of course, tomorrow, Madeline Merlot here on the Backstage Pass. And then next week, American Idol winner Noah Thompson is going to stop by, and a whole lot more over the next few weeks. Again, This Town Was. Check it out. Again, this Friday nationwide. Go get it across all the digital platforms. And, of course, the release party next week, Tuesday, November 15th at the local for the album release show and full band show for Porter's new record, This Town Was. A lot of great songs, a lot of great connections to make, and a lot of great relationships and storytelling. If you guys like storytelling, you will love this album, no doubt. Coming up here in a little bit, Daryl Worley, Bernie Nelson. We'll see you guys in a little bit here on the Backstage Pass. Timeout, as they say in sports, and we're coming right back. We'll see you soon.